Congratulations on making it to the final session of Redeemed Sexuality, Pursuing Wholeness. The session begins with a vision of wholeness, an eternal perspective rooted in Revelation 21, when God makes all things new, puts everything right to be the way it should be, including our sexuality. Until then, we need a practical vision for what healthy and holy sexuality can look like in our lives, which is what this session is designed to give you. The main activity, sexual wholeness, on pages 86 and 87, might seem a little repetitive after session 9 when you created your battle plan. The focus there was on resisting temptation and spiritual warfare. The focus here is on restoring health to the bigger system of our lives. Our relationship with God, our relationship with others, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our vocation and what we do, and our relationship to our environment around us as a whole. Each of these elements affects and is influenced by our sexuality. So this is taking a big picture look at them all and seeing where healing could come more fully to each one. The goal of this exercise is not to make everything perfect or to finally arrive at complete health and wholeness. That's reserved for Revelation 21. For now, we want to initiate a lifelong process of discipleship in the area of sexuality that will continue in your participants' lives long after they leave this group. To cast a vision for that, and in the next step exercise, to give them practical goals that they can take with them as they leave. Setting goals as people leave the group is so important, as is holding each other accountable to those goals. Because, as you know, without discipline supporting the desire to change, people either plateau or plummet. They may have learned a lot in your group, but if they don't use what they learned going forward, they'll lose it pretty quickly. Some group members may want to continue meeting even after you've finished going through the curriculum, whether that's with the group as a whole or just with their prayer partners. I encourage you to invite 1 or 2 members to lead or co-lead a new Redeemed group of their own. It's good for them because they'll go deeper in their own healing process and take more ownership of their own lives, as well as good for others who wouldn't have access to this kind of ministry unless they started a new group. As people are considering starting their own Redeemed groups after this one is over, their own continued struggles with sexual brokenness don't necessarily disqualify them from leading. However, some are probably still struggling too deeply in order to effectively guide others in this area. Consider finishing strong in one of the following ways. Get together to celebrate. Celebrate what God has done in your group. Just have fun. Have dinner. Have a bonfire. Do something to enjoy one another and to celebrate what God has done. You might have people write a letter to themselves that you can then send them in 6 months when they may have forgotten some of the things they learned in this group. They can write encouragements to their future selves now that will be powerful later. My favorite way to conclude a Redeemed group on a note of celebration is to send people out for life beyond the group in a commissioning ceremony. This can include singing worship songs, verbally affirming one another, reading letters we've written to one another, giving each other tokens of remembrance, or even rewriting and retelling our sexual histories, this time not as a story of sin and shame, but of redemption through God's grace, telling it from His perspective as much as we can, seeing how He has begun this story, He has continued to tell it through this group, and He'll be telling it for the rest of our lives towards greater healing and wholeness. And lastly, I want to say thank you to you, the leaders. You've run this race with your eyes fixed on Christ, with your ears attentive to the Holy Spirit's leading, and your heart beating with the love of the Father for the people in your group. Thank you for joining what God is doing and bringing sexual wholeness to this generation. See you later.